Hello, hello! Welcome to today's episode of The Neck, where we have special guests RBC and lymphora teaching us about the venous and lymphatic drainage. Starting off with the veins of the lateral cervical region, the external jugular vein drains blood from the scalp and side of the face, receiving contributions from the posterior auricular vein and the retromandibular vein, respectively, at the site of the angle of the mandible. The external jugular vein also receives contributions from the cervical dorsal vein, also known as the transverse cervical vein, the suprascapular vein, and the anterior jugular vein, before draining into the subclavian vein, the brachiocephalic vein, and into the superior vena cava. Now, moving on to the veins of the anterior cervical region, the internal jugular vein drains blood from the brain, anterior face, cervical viscera, and deep muscles of the neck. It receives contributions from the occipital, pharyngeal, facial, lingual, superior, and middle thyroid veins before draining into the subclavian vein, the brachiocephalic vein, and into the superior vena cava. Note, the inferior thyroid veins run directly into the brachiocephalic vein. Let's turn our attention now to lymphora. The superficial nodes, located posterior to the ear, including the occipital and retroauricular nodes, drain into the superficial cervical nodes located along the external jugular vein before draining into the deep cervical nodes located along the internal jugular vein within the carotid sheath. The superficial nodes located anterior to the ear, which include the parotid, buccal, submandibular, and submental nodes, drain directly into the deep cervical nodes. From here, the deep cervical nodes also receive lymphatic drainage from the retropharyngeal, prelaryngeal, paratracheal, and pretracheal nodes before draining into the jugular trunk, which ultimately empties into the right lymphatic duct on the right side of the body and the thoracic duct on the left side of the body. The retropharyngeal nodes are located behind the pharynx and drain lymph from the nasopharynx, auditory tube, and vertebral canal. The prelaryngeal nodes are located anterior to the larynx and drain lymph from the larynx before draining into the pre- and paratracheal nodes. The pre- and paratracheal nodes are located along the trachea and drain lymph from the trachea, thyroid, and neighboring structures. And that wraps up today's lesson. See you next time!